Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session in the Get Unstuck series with myself, Sarah Archer, and that is Phoebe, my dog, barking in the background. Apologies. I am a career and leadership coach working with female leaders to try and create the kind of career success that's right for them without feeling they've got to sell out or burn out. And I do that through either working with them to get to that next level in their career or have more impact and influence in their everyday leadership role. And I wanted to create the Get Unstuck series because, having been a leader myself, I know it's really hard to find the space and the time to think about your career development, to think about your leadership development, because the day job is just so full on. So I thought 15 minutes on a Wednesday lunchtime, just to create a little bit of time for you to learn something new, maybe remind yourself of something, get some ideas, get some tools, get some tips on how you can shape your career, shape your leadership development. And so the sessions are always practical. There's always something you can take away and implement straight away. And I hope they're also thought-provoking for you too. If you're here with me live, please do say hello. If you're watching on replay, hello. If you've got questions or comments about today's topic, please do pop them into the chat. I will come back and answer your questions either at the end of the session, or if you're watching on replay, tag me in and I'll come back and answer them later. And also, I now have a podcast called Unstuck and Unstoppable, and that also has lots of 15-minute career slots. It's career talk for ambitious women, and so there's always something useful there if you prefer to get your thinking time while you're out walking your dog or running or doing something else, ironing maybe, whatever it is. So that's also available. So let's dive into today's topic, which is how to build powerful alliances as a leader. And this is really important, particularly if you're a female leader, because we need all the help we can get in our leadership roles. And obviously, there's lots of reasons why it's great to have alliances at work, because they help us to influence more effectively, they help us drive change more effectively, they help us lead confidently, they can unlock opportunities for us, they can give us satisfaction in terms of partnership and collaboration, they can create allyship, and they can be your support system for challenges at work, for decision making and having impact. But, and there's always a but, isn't there? Sometimes it can feel hard to build those alliances because there is always internal politics going on in an organisation, and that can feel quite tricky to navigate. There might also be big personalities on the leadership team amongst your peers, and that can feel quite challenging. We can also sometimes make assumptions, unhelpful assumptions about other people that can get in the way of us making alliances. We can also have fear around doing it. We can have imposter feelings. We could also lack confidence in networking and self-promotion. So, there's lots of reasons why it can be hard. Plus, it takes energy and time to build those alliances. But the spin-offs, the benefits are definitely worth pushing through and creating time and space for it. And when we're talking about those alliances, we're thinking about alliances that can help your career development, but we're also thinking about alliances that can help your leadership, your impact, your influence at work. And I'm going to cover off briefly both of those things, slightly more on the latter than on the former. So with the sort of sponsor and mentor, so these are people who can help your career development, we're probably more aware, more knowledgeable about how to develop those kind of relationships. And if we think perhaps more about the sponsor, because mentor, there's lots of information out there about how to find a mentor. Hi, Soham. Nice that you can join me. The sponsors are powerful leaders who are willing to advocate for your next role and propel and protect you in the leadership space. And having a sponsor helps you avoid that tiara syndrome. Now, if you haven't heard of tiara syndrome, it's basically that belief that hard work and outstanding performance will result in being crowned by a promotion. Now, we all know that that isn't the case, that hard work, unfortunately, and outstanding performance is not enough. You have to also be able to promote yourself, and that is much easier if you have a sponsor. And there was some research done by the Centre for Talent and Innovation, which showed that 52% of women with sponsors were happy with their rate of progression in their careers, 25% more likely to ask for a pay rise if they've got a sponsor, and 58% less likely to quit the organisation. Excuse me. So there's lots of benefits to you, but also to the organisation of having a sponsor in terms of you feeling more confident around a lot of those progression challenges that you have to navigate. But obviously, to attract a sponsor, you do need to have a distinct leadership brand, and you need to be able to talk confidently about your brand. And you need to have a way of communicating that so that your sponsor can see it's going to be mutually beneficial, that by them sponsoring you, it's also going to reflect well on them. And so if your personal brand is something that you want to develop, I do have a live on that, which I'll link to in the comments, and also a podcast episode on that. So developing your personal brand is going to be definitely useful for attracting a sponsor, as well as lots of other things in your leadership career. You also need to look out, obviously, for opportunities where you're going to connect with the senior leaders in your organisation or your industry, and be prepared to talk about yourself so that you can begin to have that conversation about becoming a sponsor. So that's all I'm going to say around kind of sponsorship, mentorship, because I want to spend most of the session talking about alliances that will help you be a more effective leader. And the first thing we want to think about doing when we're thinking about creating those powerful alliances is mapping the types of alliances that are around us and understanding the players, if you like. And I've got 5 categories to talk you through. I'm sure there are other different kinds of categories, but these are the ones that I'm going to talk you through today, which you can just think about in terms of your peers, the leadership team, who are the people, the key people in your organisation. So the first category is obviously allies. So these are people who you're naturally aligned with, they share your point of view, you know you can rely on them for their support. But obviously the thing with these category of people is you want to be reinforcing the similarities so that they feel constantly aligned to you, and you don't want to take them for granted because they might change that view or that standpoint. So you want to continually work with them, but you've got a natural alignment with them. So they're kind of easy, if you like. Then we've got the confederates. So they're where they are aligned to your objectives, to the direction of travel that you want to move in, but they're not with you. You can't necessarily count on them for their support. You know they're kind of aligned to you, but they might go either way. But they do respond well to consistency and knowing your commitment to the cause, if you like. So you want to be making that commitment to your direction of travel in a consistent way that they can feel you're true to where you're heading, you're true to your values, and they can align themselves then with you. Then we've got opposers. So they are where you have a good relationship with them, but they're not necessarily aligned to your views or your direction of travel. So you get on really well with them, but they might not always be supporting you or agreeing with your decisions. But to kind of keep that good relationship and to encourage them to kind of come across to your point of view, if you like, it's about being clear and unambiguous about what you're trying to do and making sure that you are listening to their views and their concerns and taking them on board so they feel heard by you, even if they don't always agree with where you're going. Then we've got a trickier group, which are your adversaries, where you find yourself, bumping up against them, where you're having disagreements, you're just finding them, often you might find them irritating or annoying. And so the first thing to do there is to consider what your role is in that relationship. Like, how are you contributing to it being a difficult relationship? Because maybe there is something you could do that would actually allow that relationship to be a better relationship. But with this one, you do also have to be thinking, could I solve it? So could I change something that would make our relationship better? Could I build on this? Is there a way that I can see that I can get this relationship to a better place? Or actually, do I need to let it go? Because you have a finite amount of energy and you don't want to be pouring lots of energy into trying to change something that isn't changeable. So thinking about, solve it, build it, or let it go. And then our final category is the fence sitters, where you are not sure where they stand at all. They keep their cards very close to their chest. And with this group of people, it's about being patient and, again, just being committed to building alignment and commitment and enabling them to be able to trust you. Now, with all of these categories, you also have to be viewing this through a lens of who can I trust and what is my functional need of these people? Because, again, it's about energy. And we mentioned earlier about politics, internal politics. Some people will be playing a game. Some people will have their agendas, both personal agendas and their kind of functional need agendas. And so it is always being mindful of what is going on that's not seen. And also recognizing what or who you need to be gaining more commitment from because of your functional need, what you need them to be able to do to help you get to where you want to be. So I'm sure you're thinking, well, that's not very well, but how do I do this? So we're just going to talk through now what your approach might be to building these alliances once you've mapped them out and kind of understand where you have strong alliances already and where you might need to put some extra effort in. So the first thing is obviously which I often say, is to be intentional, to be strategic about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And again, it's thinking about where is going to have the biggest impact. So if you know that actually you need to have the key ally in the finance team, but you have a difficult relationship with the finance lead, then it's going to be worth your commitment to try and build that relationship, because otherwise you might find whatever you want to do is going to be continually blocked because they won't support your strategy. So it's thinking about where can I have the most impact and what is my functional need. But also within that strategy, thinking about the value that those relationships can bring to you. Because often we are drawn to people who are like us, who think like us, but actually there is real value in having an ally who thinks very differently to you, who can challenge you, who can challenge your thinking, who can bring different approaches, different ideas, who can make you think differently, because that will strengthen whatever it is you're trying to do. So also when you're mapping those allies, potential alliances, who is going to be the one who can be really challenging to me in how I think? But then also within that, recognizing the different communication needs of those potential alliances. So we all have different ways of communicating and different ways of responding to communication. So some people really value logic, some people really value kind of ethos and principle, and some people value emotion and kind of person-centered communication. So it's understanding what their communication style might be and also what your own is. And also people respond to big picture and some people respond to kind of granular detail. So it's really useful and helpful to know how do they communicate, how do they like to be communicated with, because then you can adapt your communication style to them. Then the third thing to think about is actually giving before you get. So thinking about how you can support and help them before you ask for their support. There is something called the law of reciprocity, where as humans, if someone has helped us, we naturally feel drawn to helping that person because there's a kind of debt to be repaid. So it's not about manipulating people. It is just about noticing, if I come at this from how can I help them, then in the long run, it's going to be more beneficial to me. Our fourth point is to celebrate other people's successes and give credit, because it's all part of being seen as collaborative, having a very collaborative approach. You might do this already, but it's maybe amplifying it. So when somebody else's team has done something really helpful, actually articulating that, or when someone in someone else's team has helped your team, articulating that, and just being seen as somebody who really notices what other people and other people's teams are doing, but also thanking people when they have supported you. So when someone has, maybe one of your opposers has supported you on a particular issue, taking them out for a coffee, sending them a message, just letting them know that you really appreciated that, means you're building that relationship so they're more likely to support you going forward. And then obviously our fifth point is something which you probably will be doing automatically, which is just being really conscious of how you're building trust with your peers and with the leadership team. So making sure that when you say you're going to do something, that you do it, admitting when you've made a mistake or you've got it wrong, treating others as you want to be treated, and just checking in that you are doing this. Because sometimes when we're overwhelmed or busy or stressed, then we can't always keep an eye on that element. So it's just building regular check-ins to think, how am I demonstrating these things to my alliances? And then my sixth point is to take radical responsibility within the organisation. So being seen as somebody who notices where there's organisational problems that need solving, and not passing that problem on to the function necessarily, but thinking collaboratively, how can we collectively solve this problem? How can we support the function where that problem sits to solve this problem? So just be thinking about, am I taking radical responsibility in my organisation? And you can do that whatever level. You don't have to be in the C-suite to take radical responsibility. It's just being aware of those issues and taking ownership and responsibility for them, rather than thinking that belongs to somebody else. So I'm conscious of time, and I was going to kind of quickly whiz through an example of somebody who has employed some of these strategies, but because of time, what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to just give you some actions to take away that you could do right now to help you move this forward, if you like. So the first one would be definitely to kind of just map out your alliances, so you're aware of where you want to put your energy, and then write down 3 people who can support your career goals or your leadership goals, and then identify how you can add value to them, to each of those 3 people, and then plan out one action to take to build that relationship a bit more, and think about, out of those 3 actions, what's the one thing I could do in the next week? Okay, so plan out, map out your alliances, write down 3 people who could support your career goal or your leadership goal, and identify how you can add value to them, and then plan one action you can take to build that relationship further with those 3 people. And out of those 3 actions, what is the one action you're going to do this week? So I hope that's been useful to you. So again, just to recap very briefly, think about, am I building alliances for my leadership or for my career? And where do I want to put my energy at the moment? If it's your career, think about your mentor or sponsorship strategy. If it's for your leadership, map out your alliances, and then think about being intentional and strategic with those alliances, because you can't do everything. Giving before you get, thinking about building trust and supporting others, celebrating others' achievements, and taking radical responsibility. This is a big topic, and I haven't managed to cover it in my normal 15 minutes, but I hope it's been useful to you. If you've got questions, please do message me. If you want support around either developing alliances for your leadership career or for your career development, then get in touch. Let me know. We can have a quick chat about how we can do that and take that forward. And have a great week. I will be back next Wednesday with another topic, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for joining me.